Welcome back to St Anne's here in Higher Openshaw. Today I'm quite excited as today's podcast is all about our story competition, 500 Words. If you remember, last week I launched the competition and I had asked members of our Year 6 at school if they were prepared to write me a story. It was completely voluntarily, they didn't need to do it, and to write me a story about anything they want, and to have that story handed in by this morning, which was Friday morning, which is what they've done. So, first of all, I'd like to thank all the children who took the time to write me a story. I have spent most of the morning going through them, and I really have enjoyed all of them. There were stories about all kinds of things, although it must be said that ghost stories were fairly predominant among the stories that came in. Ghost stories, nightmare stories, stories about bad dreams, about being lost. There was all kinds of things. So I read through them all and rattled them down to what I thought were the two very best that had been handed in. It was a very close thing. I then read each of those two stories to members of the staff, and we took a vote, and the winning entry is by Leah Berry. So, congratulations to you, Leah. We really enjoyed your story, and we thought that it was very well fashioned, very well put together. It is a difficult thing to write such a well scripted story in just 500 words. Now then, Mr. Davenport took the time this afternoon to record it for me. So I'd now like to share Leah's story with everyone. So here it is. Leah's 500 Words.
This is my story of the haunted house. This event started on a summer's evening. My two friends and I, Linda and Jake, were sitting under a tall oak tree. "I'm bored," Jake moaned as he pulled at the grass. No one said anything until Linda broke the silence. "Hey, do you want to look for the haunted house?" We both looked at her puzzled. "Haven't you heard about it?" Linda said. "Well, rumour says that once a family lived there. They had a young daughter called Jane. Now next to the house there was a well. One day Jane was playing and accidentally tripped and fell down it. It was too late when her parents found her," whispered Linda. "Well, the parents got plagued with the spirit of the girl, and eventually they fled in fear. But as they drove away, the spirit of the girl appeared in front of the car. The parents swerved and crashed. They say that very house is haunted by that family." Linda whispered, fear in her eyes. "Well, let's go then," Jake said. They both turned to me. "What about you, Katie?" Jane asked. I curled a lock of brown hair around my fingers. Okay then," I reluctantly said. We walked to the haunted house. When I saw the house, I felt a deathly chill. Each window had been boarded up. The weeds curled up the side of the house. "What a dump," Jake said. "Come on, let's go in," urged Linda. We pushed the door open. A blast of cold greeted us. The second we went into the house, there was a heavy feeling that we were not welcome. We crept along the corridor, floorboards squeaking. There was a door at the end of the corridor. We edged it open. There in front of us was a girl sat on the floor. She looked at us, but instead of a face was a brown crumbling skull staring back. We stared back in horror. Slowly its jaws started clacking, and blood-curdling scream rattled the house. The doors started slamming in a frenzy. Then it stopped. Silence. Suddenly, something started hitting the door so hard it rattled on its hinges. Finally, the door landed on the floor. Behind the door, two other skeleton creatures lurked in the shadows. "Run!" Linda screamed. We went to push the creatures out of the way, only to receive the feeling that our hearts were freezing inside of us. We kept running until we got to the front door. We shoved the door open. To our horror, the creatures were running after us, screaming an unearthly noise. A well came into view, and as we were about to pass it, 3 pairs of bony hands shoved us with almighty strength. We all fell into the well. Thick, grey, moss-covered stones whizzed past me. Then I hit the floor. We are now trapped in this damp well forever.
Help! So well done, Leah. That's very well deserved applause indeed. I hope that everyone has enjoyed Leah's ghost story. So, what happens now? Well, we now hand over to year 5. So the same rules go for you. I'd like you to write a story on anything, and it doesn't have to be a ghost story. It can be on anything you like. But the rules are it must be no longer than 500 words. It is difficult to try and script a really good story like Leah's in just 500 words. So I'd like all our Year 5 children, if they want to join in with the competition, to do so and have their stories ready for me by next Thursday morning, if that's possible. And again, I will go through them. We will ask members of the staff to vote on what they think is the best, and then another member of staff will record one for me, and we will put that story on the podcast at the end of next week. So to all our Year 5 children, the very best of luck. Once again, thanks to Leah for her story, and congratulations. Until next time, this is me signing off.